Okay, good evening. Let's call to order.
Okay.
Roll call, please.
Nancy Kepka.
Present.
Mike Davenport.
Here.
Dan Nicholas.
Here.
Carrie Pavasich.
Here.
Rick Pavanato.
Here.
Joanna Vasquez Drexler.
Here.
Zoe Boyd. And Sam Bull. Thank you.
We have a quorum. Let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Well, we have a packed agenda, so I'm going to try to be like an auctioneer and speak quickly. First, I'm looking for an approval of the minutes for the March 15th, 2021 business meeting, the April 12th, 2021 workshop meeting, and the April 12th, 2021 closed meeting.
So moved.
Joanna? Terry?
Thank you very much.
I
Joanna
didn't hear
Vasquez.
anybody else.
Second.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dan. I'm sorry.
Dan was the second?
Dan was the second.
Thank you. So it's Joanna and Dan, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Joanna Vasquez Drexler.
Aye.
Dan Nicholas.
Aye.
Terry Pavasich.
Aye.
Rick Pavanato.
Aye.
Mike Davenport.
Aye.
Schroffel on the minutes. Thank you.
And Nancy Kupka, aye.
And Nancy Kupka, I apologize, sorry.
It's okay. This brings us to, those are approved. This brings us to our first reception of visitors, public comment. There's two opportunities for comments for the audience. This first is intended for audience members to address the board about any agenda item on which the board will vote. Anybody wish to address the board? Seeing none, do we have any comments?
None that are related to action items.
Okay. We'll move on to the recommendations and report of the superintendent, the 2020-2021 school update.
All right, so not much, we were back last week, so not much has changed in a week. We continue to move forward with a full in-person plan. Contact tracing continues to be a major effort with the rules that are there. You can see between last week and this week, it's a total of about 400 students that have been identified as close contacts. We continue to follow the guidelines as we must that are provided by the IDPH. I continue to advocate along with other superintendents for at least closing some of the inconsistencies in logic that appear in those guidelines. However, we have no right or authority to make changes to those on our own, but we will continue to advocate for changes. I'm also serving on the ISB Superintendent Advisory Committee. We had a lengthy meeting last Thursday night. I do believe that ISB does understand the concerns of superintendents, school districts, and parents in returning to school next fall. However, I don't know what the outcome of those recommendations or guidance will be. And we're also told that there's the guidance we will receive, as it has been all year, some of it will be from Illinois State Board of Education, but we'll also get additional guidance from the Illinois Department of Public Health. We expect that that guidance will start coming out towards the end of April. And then student vaccination options, we were able to, with our good friends over at Fenton, open up an opportunity for 200 of our students to get vaccinated, their first dose last Friday. There's another round that's going through Woodridge right now. And then we heard from DuPage County Health Department today that they are going to start allocating a tray of Pfizer doses a week to high school students. So that's 1,170 a week, 1,170 doses. They've ordered all of the schools in order of free and reduced lunch percentage, and that's the order that they'll distribute them to. So we are 8th on that list in DuPage County. However, schools are, and we are as well, are working to acquire vaccines through other means other than DuPage County Health Department. So right now we're looking at 9 weeks out for when we would receive those, but if we're able to acquire them through other means, or if other schools are able to and then we move up on the list, that could come sooner. And then DuPage County Health Department reminded us today that their site is now open to anybody. including our students over the age of 16, and they only distribute Pfizer there. So we'll remind our students that they can go to the DuPage County Health Department site and get vaccinated, or, obviously many national pharmacies are providing a variety of vaccine options. So that's what's going on with return to in-person. Any questions on any of that?
I'll just say, the illogic, some of the illogical things that we're dealing with right now, I appreciate you trying to push for some sensibility there. The 14-day quarantine versus the 7 to 10 that the rest of the world's doing, the contact tracing, the 3 versus 6 feet, that sort of, some of these things just don't make a lot of sense. And I know that there's a lot of frustration in the community, and we're feeling it too. But I want people to know that we don't have a choice with this. This is what's being dictated to us. Otherwise, we might think about these things. So I appreciate you advocating and trying to push for some change here. So
Yeah, very much so.
so thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
All right. Next item. Support Staff Association contract extension. Earlier this year, the support staff approached us and said this year's a little crazy, if you haven't noticed. So rather than enter into a full bargaining process, we'd like to talk to you about a one-year rollover. They have agreed to a one-year rollover at 2.8%, which falls within the district revenue stream, which is the parameters that we tend to stay inside of for all the work that we do. No other changes in language were made. It's a one-year agreement, so then we'll actually go into a full bargaining process with this group next school year. We appreciate, their work for us and respecting the world that we're facing right now, and the administration recommends to the board that we approve this later on this evening. Any questions on this? Hearing none?
Sounds cool.
Draft board protocols, this came last week. We've had a week to look at it. President Kupka made a wording suggestion, a slight revision that was made in there. The document that's there represents that change.
What was that, Hank? Because I tried to look.
It's one word, and I can't remember it off the top of my head.
The third bullet was something like, we want to understand our individual jobs and collective responsibilities, and I had it changed to, we want to fulfill
Okay.
our individual jobs and
Thank you.
collective responsibilities.
I would have had to look it up. So we made that change at NC's request. So although the board doesn't make recommendations in board, or the administration doesn't make recommendations in board work, this is an action item later in this meeting for the board to approve. The next one, was last week. This is back again this week for approval. And the concept is that all in-district tuition other than driver's education would be covered by grant funds this summer, a combination of a variety of grant funds that Gina has pulled together and Rob have pulled together. Out-of-district tuition would remain at $420 per semester. And this is also up as an action item later this evening, and the administration recommends approval of it. Any questions on this one? All right. Many of these are returning from last week, so. Right. South High School Title I school-wide waiver. This is our Title I funding that Gina organizes and puts together the whole plan along with Ed to meet the South High needs. Really, the goal of this is, as you can see, supporting academically high-risk students and meeting the needs that South High has. If you have any questions about this, I can pull Gina up to answer them. Otherwise, this comes back every year at this time.
Looks like none.
All good. All right, the administration recommends approval of this later on this evening. This one I'm actually going to bring Gina up to speak about a little bit because this is pretty exciting and a new grant that we've received. So I'm going to turn this over to Gina to discuss a little bit here.
Good evening. Oh, wow. It's definitely on now. Stand back a little bit. So this is very exciting. So last summer, we were awarded by the Illinois State Board of Education the Education Pathway Grant, which is designed to promote students to go into education and hopefully diversify the students, the teaching candidates that we have. And so we were awarded our FY20 funding and FY21 funding at the same time for just over $135,000. And our CTE department chairs have been fantastic. They've been working with this. They've really done the lion's share of the work. I can't say enough about Melissa Damon and Pat Farty as we've worked through how we're going to use those funding to support our education pathway. And as you know, we already have courses which culminate in Introduction to Teaching, but we've done some great things so far with the funding, and we're hoping that the board will approve the contract with High Res Productions for a video and website. But what we've done so far, I want to share a little bit with you. We've hired a part-time education pathway coordinator who has already forged relationships with 5 in-state universities. We are in the process of developing a mentoring program for our students who graduate from District 99, go on to college into the field of education for mentoring beyond District 99, so extending that when they're in college. We are in the planning phase of a kindergarten camp this summer that would be free to kindergartners, where our students will be the teachers, and our teachers, of course, will supervise the entire camp. We've also purchased some supplies, some supplemental supplies for our early childhood care class, child development class, and our introduction to teaching courses. So we are very excited to get promotional materials available. We're not just doing the video, of course. We have website, brochures, all kinds of materials out there to really spread the word, which is the goal of this grant. So we're asking the Board of Education to approve the contract with High Res for $20,500.
I just had a quick question. Is the video, is it going to be used for the teachers or the staff to recruit them, or just the?
It's for students and the community and even
okay.
beyond that.
I was
And our
wondering
teachers will be part of that,
Okay.
as well as some of our students.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and this is also an action item up for approval later on this evening. All right, next I'm going to turn it over to Mark in the third quarter financial report.
Okay, there we go. So we actually are tracking very well compared to budget. We have a few things that are unusual here this year. On the revenue side, we are getting ESSER funds. In fact, we received our first payment. I believe it was just under $300,000. And this is to be used for helping cope with the COVID and the issues, the educational issues that we've had, and help us improve our either facilities or just and purchase services to increase the learning or take advantage of that money for closing the gap that we all think has happened because of the COVID and the way that we've delivered and been able to deliver education for the last year. But we have, on the revenue side, it's pretty clean. If you see the projection, property tax is 100% collected. Replacement taxes better than expected, so those should come in better than expected, which is a positive for us. Big monkey in the middle there is $10 million bond proceeds, and typically it's not really reflected in the operating funds on a normal basis. That's a one-time bond issuance. It kind of messes up the percentages in terms of amounts collected, but it didn't change it too much there. Interest income, we're going to fall way short of that $400,000 target. That was optimistic and expecting hopefully for some of the inflation to finally take hold in our economy, which it hasn't yet. So we're still seeing interest rates that are below 1%, no matter what we try and do, and everybody's fighting for that 1%. So most of the other items, food services way down, as you can see, and that's something that we anticipated, and a lot of you know Jerry Etheridge has done a tremendous job with the community service of getting food dispersed in coordination with districts 58 and 68. And the ESSER money is helping to pay for that part of it as well. Because we're not charging food, but there are costs we pay to Chartwells to produce the meals, and we have an action item coming up in a little bit that'll before the renewal of the contract with Chartwells, but I'll get into that differently. They really were good in helping us with this effort. So we have registration fees are down. We decided not to charge any athletic fees. That's really the only thing missing there. That's going to stay down. Other local revenues, it's right on target. Federal aid is, general state aid and other, that's where the ESSER money will be. We record there's going to be an ESSER 2 and then an American Relief Act, which is going to be another piece that overall we expect to receive more than $4 million of federal support. That's in the last item, the federal, but the state aid above it is tracking where we think it will be. I think we have 2 payments still yet to come in our evidence-based model formulation. So that's pretty much right on track. So revenues are looking good right now. If we go to the expenditures, I don't know if there's any questions about the revenues first, maybe. Sorry. Thank you. I don't know if we can get rid of that bar on the bottom at all. That's
Must have clicked the button.
yeah. I have to do it from paper here for me just to get you the totals. So the salaries and benefits are tracking pretty much right in line with last year. We're going to be fine, I think, by the end of the year. Purchase services are running lower, partly, and that's because of busing costs that were down. We did use buses and we did pay for buses, even though we didn't use them on certain days. We paid either 40 and sometimes 80% of the cost of running the route just to keep the drivers intact for the whole year. And it did help because we're coming back here, we really had no significant problems with busing when we started back up. So that's a positive there. And you'll also see a couple contracts for general ed and special needs transportation coming up in a minute too, as part of tonight's presentations. The big piece there, of course, is in the fund balance on this last one is the working cash, $10 million issuance, and that's really propped up our operating funds. It's something that we needed to do, and it'll help us get us through the next several years. We're still waiting for the economy to come back, and that will affect some of our revenue stream. And that just gets us in a safer space in terms of the reserve level that we want. When we take the $10 million out of the operating revenue in this exhibit, our percent of revenues will go up into the 40% range, so it will be closer to a safety level. 33, if it were to stay there, if it were to drop below 33%, we would have to come back with another plan. But we've already got the plan in the revenue side, so it's already there. So overall, we're tracking very well. We think we're going to come in probably better than budget this year, largely because of the ESSER funding and what we get there, and also because of reduced expenditures on the transportation side. So we expect a better finish than we originally anticipated for the district. So that's nothing but good news, I think, from our perspective. Now, if you have any questions I can help you with.
We're coming in slightly better than what you expected for the year. I know the working cash, the bonds that we took out earlier this school year were really a safety measure for the next couple of years. At what levels do we look at retiring that bond early or returning that money so that's not on the books anymore?
Well, see, I think we had an even larger deficit plan for next year, somewhere in the $3 million range. So we need to really wait and see. I mean, in my plan, I don't have it to return it back as much as just to give us a safety net, safe balance. Where if you were to compare us to some other schools, even at 30 or 40% on a cash basis, we're still probably in the minority of districts that travel with that kind of money. In fact, this year, what I'm doing though with the additional funding available to us, working cash, is We're going to go off of the leases for the Chromebooks this year. We're going to pay for those direct as opposed to leasing them out. And I'm working on that side of the balance sheet, trying to get rid of those liabilities, because we put them into a 3-year lease, and I want to get rid of those leases and not stop paying interest at a higher rate.
Okay.
And then it'll be a decision at some point, depending on how, if things settle down and we feel like we have a steady economy, we could certainly go back and pay off the bonds early. Recall, though, that they were done with debt service extension base, so that the rate didn't go up on anybody, but it just stayed constant, and we strung it out. And I think it's only a 7-year bond, 6 or 7 years time. So if we get into 2 or 3 years, we could go ahead and pay it off, but we'll see what things hit us in the future that look, we would compare it to make that decision.
Glad to hear we're looking at using, some of those funds for some of the leases next year for the Chromebooks, et cetera. So, thank you.
Yeah, the Chromebooks have kind of moved up a year because of this explosion in technology created by the pandemic. We were warned by CDW and others that we had to get in the queue quickly to order these and get them in. And so we've really moved an expenditure for next year's incoming freshmen into this operating year, which is about a $500,000 bump to our expenditures that we're going to have. And we'd like to do that this year, starting this year, just to, again, start that track of getting rid of all of the debt through the next couple of years. So that's one more piece of the puzzle. Anyone else? Okay. You're going to get tired of listening to me. I have a lot of items. That's just one of 8, I think, I have on the agenda tonight. And there are pillows and sleeping bags in the back if you do get too far into this.
You think he's kidding.
All right. The next, though, are ones that return kind of on a yearly basis here.
Yeah.
So the next one is first student.
First student, they really have done a good job with us this year. We have a 4% increase expected or asked for it in this contract. In comparing this to other school districts, everybody's in the 3 to 5% range. Everybody's concerned about they're going to raise their prices for their drivers. And I think the breakdown of the 4% is 1.5% of that is to turn over the fleet. Because we have in our original basis contract, the requirement that we have buses that are no more than 12 years old on there. And so that will cause them to replace some of those older buses and improve reliability, although we've had no problems with that as an issue with this vendor. Then 1% is for salary increases, and then that they're going to do just, again, to be competitive. You'll hear that in the Sunrise contract as well. And then that leaves 1.5% for their just regular inflationary costs and their cost of personnel and leasing and things like that. So I think the 4% is fair. And both District 58 and 68 have already signed for the same amount with the first student with their contract and extended it as well. And this is one that we do in cooperation with them, so it would be pretty difficult if we were to break away from them at this late point in time.
Mark, I was trying to remember, did we see a little bit of increase last year too?
Cheryl, could you hold on?
Yeah, a little bit what?
Of increase last year too with first, I thought, oh yeah.
Yeah, last year's increase was 5.
Oh, well, we all went together. I thought we had a pretty high one a couple of years ago. It was 2 years ago, I think we had a double-digit increase when this thing really started with the bus drivers. I think last year's was a similar rate to this, so it's just, it's a very difficult trade to try and get people to go into, and especially this last year. It was hard for them to keep the drivers who had a very irregular schedule, and some days would, be on. Some went on welfare and got a better deal there and didn't come back, and so they had to replace those drivers in the middle of the year when, even though they didn't know if they were going to be really using them this year because of the way things were. So it's a crazy situation to be in.
Yeah,
Or difficult, at least.
cost of doing business, yeah.
All right, any other questions? Next one's very similar. This is transportation for special education services with Sunrise with a 5% recommended increase.
Yeah, the original contract was put out by SACID, our educational cooperative, trying to get as many districts involved behind one vendor as possible for improvement of services and just because some of these, like Sunrise they have contracts with Chicago Public Schools. We think we're big, and we think SACID is big, but in comparison to sections of Chicago Public Schools, we're small potatoes. And so getting them to be interested to come out here and provide services at a pretty good level, a very good level, is been a challenge. The good thing about this, they've asked for a 5% increase. They have not caught up yet with all of the salaries, and they're going to have a bigger push on the salaries to get them to $20.50 starting salary for these drivers. But the good thing about this service is that it's for special needs, and there's an 80%, roughly 80% of it is reimbursed by the State Board of Education, so the impact to us isn't as great. And again, 5% is what's going around. Both 58 and 68 have signed. They approved it last month with their board, and it's the general number that they're treating. We kind of make them tell us what they're giving everybody else so that we can make sure we're not paying more than the others. And sometimes there's good rationale, like this, the fleet is, needs to be replenished, and they make good arguments that we understand and accept.
Sure.
So that'll be an action item.
Any questions on that one? As Mark mentioned, both transportation contracts are action items this evening that the recommendation is to accept. The next one is tax rates.
All right, so final levy extension. For those that have been here and for a number of years, this is the famous worksheet that tells us how much we asked for, $84.5 million in total operating fund levy back in December. The county, this is something maybe you didn't know, so I left this column in. The loss plus cost is something that the county tacks on just because of appeals and possible losses where people don't pay over initially and they have to do leaning. So they tack on 1% to each of those, and it produces a rate that would be about 16891 in total. Then in March, we get the clerk actually tells us our exact EAV, so we know that. It tells us exact new construction. And so then we're able to, per the tax caps, know exactly what our capped rate will be. And it's always going to be a little bit less. I think it's about 97% of what we had asked for, so we have to leave 3% off when we do this. And that's where what this does, it shows that our final rate has to be $1.6548, $1.65, I mean. So that's the tax cap rate, and so we had to shave some off, $878,000 to stay within that tax rate. And if you look down in the lower right-hand section, that's just the operating rate. The debt service levy rate is $22.76. It's gone down a little bit compared to last year. And the combined rate is at $1.9131, and that's a drop of 3 cents. So when the EAV grows faster than CPI and the rate of inflation, our rate is always going to drop. It's a mechanical calculation. And then, so I think that's what we did. That we were required to turn in the $1.6548 by March 31st at the county level. So we've already done this. So really, we're asking you to ratify or ratify. What am I saying? To ratify what we've already done.
So we do this, the first shot at the levy goes in December, am I correct, Mark? When the board first saw this?
Yeah, the last,
And if you probably remember, every year I talk about to the board that many school districts will balloon levy or will just throw a big number in there and just ask the board to approve it. And I tell you that Mark and Jeree do a lot of work to get very close to what we're actually going to receive, so that the community sees that we really take this seriously and that we are carefully managing their funds. You can see in an $80 million budget, you need to put a number out there that you're not lower than, right? That Mark and the finance team here do a very fine job of coming very close to what we expect to end up at. So it's just another example of the fine work that Mark does. Let's jump 2 slides, Mark.
Actually, I'm going to point 2 things out on
Yeah,
this
go
slide.
ahead.
If you look at the up section, assessed valuation, the 2020 actual assessed valuation finally topped $5 billion. And right before the Great Recession, we were poised, I was thinking we were going to hit $5 billion that year, and everything went down. And so it's taken us this long to recover in our assessed valuation since that point in time. So that was just one thing to point out. But if the new revenue stream is other calculations, that'll be for this levy. It'll be revenue for the 21-22 school year is 3.2, and this is where we get a 0.9, not quite 1% of new construction value, tax cap rate of 2.3, and that's how we get 3.2 that we use as a guide for us to understand. And when we're looking at our projected revenue, 84% of our revenue comes in at that level.
So that's the number for the next year that we'll try to stay underneath for anything that we're doing, is under that 3.2%. Mark, let's skip this slide. We'll come back to it in a second. I want you to talk about that one next.
Okay. Well, this is one where, they just found out really that the state started collecting, the annual tax rates for all districts in the state. And it's a year old, really. It's only got 2018, where maybe 2 years old now. I think they'll be coming out with another one next, sometime they didn't do it in March here. I couldn't get a more recent calculation. But if you look in the left-hand column, lowest tax rate, there's 856 individual districts in the state of Illinois that levy a tax for their operations. And so all of these numbers in that left-hand column was where individual districts fall between 1 and 856. And District 99 is 20, so we're the 20th lowest school district in the state of Illinois. Now there's different types of districts, unit districts, elementary districts, high school districts, but if you just look at the high school districts in DuPage County, we have the 2nd lowest tax rate, second only to Hinsdale High School, which has a much bigger assessed valuation than we do. At one point, they had 1.5 times our assessed valuation. We're kind of closing the gap because we've had some really good increases in our own assessed valuation. And so, this $1.95 is that's where we were on the right-hand column. In 2018, our total tax rate was 1.95. Compare that to the 1.91 this year. So we dropped, 4 cents since then. But this is, I think this is just a definitive and shows how we do care about tax rate.
It's better than all right, Mark.
Yeah.
And we care about, we watch it very closely. It's something I've always wanted to take care of and make sure that we didn't get out of line. And it's interesting, you'll see some of those schools are, high schools even, are much further down the list than you would expect.
So we recommend that the board tonight later approves this as an action item. Any questions for Mark? All right, job well done, Mark.
Thank you.
All right, renewal of food service management contract. You'll see here it's below that revenue stream of 3.2 at 2.3. We try to stick to CPI on this. This one comes back every year for renewal. So we're asking that the board tonight approve this. If there's any questions, I can turn it over to Mark. All right.
Good.
The next item is District Treasurer Services. This comes back to the board every 3 years. So 3 years ago, we were discussing a renewal similar to this with Mr. Wagner. He is the independent, he keeps an independent set of books to double check all of our team's work. He has been employed by the board for quite a while, and we're recommending that we renew his contract for another 3 years. I'll turn any questions over to Mark on this, if there are any. Hearing none, this is an action item this evening as well. Next one is District's Auditor Service. This one comes back on a yearly basis. They perform the comprehensive independent audit of the district's books. And then later on this year, come back with a lengthy report for the board to talk about anything that they see that we could improve, which is rare to have those things, and then audits all of our books for us and provides a report both for us and for the public of our financial accounting. Anything else we need to add to that, Mark?
Well, just, we're already in this is the 4th year of a 5-year proposal. I mean, we can leave it at any time, but typically when they put the bid together, they expect it to be over 5 years unless there's a problem arising with their services and we decide to leave them. But I'm very pleased with them. In fact, they've got one of the best seniors intern in this last group that they've had that we've ever had. He's really good. He's very efficient. It just really takes a lot of load off of us having to get the list of things that he needs. He gives us plenty of time to get it. So we're very satisfied with their services. Takes a lot of load off a jury. So I appreciate that.
Is the 39.5 a number that was set contractually then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're still on target for what they proposed.
Any other questions for Mark? All right, this is a consent agenda item, and we recommend that it be approved later on this evening. Next, South High Marching Band uniform bid. We have a rotating cycle where about every 10 years, each school gets a replacement set of uniforms. We did this last in 2016 with North High. South High went through the process of specifying what they would like, receiving bids on uniforms, and then choosing the lowest responsible bidder. That comes in at a total amount of $104,193.85. South High is reportedly very happy with the quality of the product and how it looks. It will look fabulous debuting in our brand new stadiums next year once everybody can come back and enjoy football in the fall under the lights. And of course, the best part of football as a former band director is the marching band. Mark and Jeree and the South High team have done a lot of work on this, but we recommend it for approval later. Mark, anything you'd like to add to that?
No, you said it. They really like each one was supposed to bring a uniform for review. One bidder didn't do that, so he was excluded, but then they really liked this one that they brought, and it's very high quality.
Is this the same company that did it last time?
I'm not
Or is
sure.
this a different-
Is this the company that won the North High bid?
No, Fruhoff was the one for the
Oh,
north.
that's
Right.
So, but Fruhoff was here,
Fruhoff.
but they were not as low in price, and as long as they were happy with the design and the construction of the uniform, we were fine with that. And I think the superintendent probably speaks highly of Fred J. Miller.
I do.
And their company. They're a very big company, very good in this area. This is their stronghold.
I would have liked to have seen the rendering of what our uniform's going to look like.
I can't hear you.
Yeah, we
What'd
can
you
get
say?
you a picture of what it's going to look like. Sure,
Oh.
I'll send that out.
Cool to see.
Yeah, they're making some changes, a little bit of changes to it, and then they're required to have an active set of the uniform and everything sent to us before we give them final approval to mass produce. So at that point, we can show it to you.
Cool.
All right, this is also an action item later this evening. All right, master facility plan, some continuing good news on the master facility plan front. We continue to be on time and ahead of budget. Mike was able to go on a little tour of South High today with members of the core committee. We're going to go out and visit North High next week. Former board member Renner was with us today and got to see he hadn't been able to come through the buildings in over a year, so he was excited to see. And as Mike saw, the South High auditorium is breathtaking.
Right.
So really moving along here. So financial contingency, we sit a little above $1.3 million. And we still have quite a bit in allowances, especially for Phase C, which is the work that's going to happen this summer. Remember, those allowances serve as the kind of first line of contingency that's built into the work. And then our contingency that you see there at 1.3 million, it's kind of that second line. Well, because of how we've been progressing and the way that the work's been going and where we're at with everything, White has allocated back to us about $800,000 worth of contingency to go back to accomplish projects that we pulled back on at the beginning to make sure that we had a contingency there at the end. Both schools have gone through, and I'll show you the list of projects in a second, and have identified their top kind of 10 projects that they would like for us to add back in. So remember, these were on the original, we would hope to be able to accomplish this. We're pulled back to make sure we had enough contingency. Now that we have enough contingency, we're able to release in and accomplish some of those projects that we had always hoped to do. In our discussion today, I'd like to point out that part of what allowed this contingency to be here was the fact that there was a pandemic going on. We were able to accomplish a lot more work during the traditional regular shift. And, you know, if we had students here all day for the whole year, there would have been certain loud activities or those kinds of things where you would have had to have pushed a certain amount of work into more expensive later in the day hours or weekend hours that we were able to accomplish during the school day. So some of that contingency is just because of the world that we're living in right now, and we were able to accomplish some of this kind of more intrusive work during regular work hours. So with that being said, South High's list here, and you're going to see a common theme running through both schools. The things that we pulled back from the improvements generally overall were hallways and corridor improvements. What you're going to see here, though, in the original replacement costs was the idea of removing, abating asbestos, and then replacing. What you're seeing here is an encapsulation cost, where we are covering prior floors with new floors. That's the less expensive option. We're at the point where we have removed lots of asbestos from the project. And at this point, it's time to just encapsulate. And then, yeah, it's going to be down the road. We're going to have to deal with it. But it's the prudent way to go at this point to finish out the project and connect all of the pieces. One of the major concerns we heard as people on the core committee visited other schools, and we've heard from students that have gone out and visited other schools that have done projects like this, is that a lot of them end up with islands of areas of their building that look new, that are connected by ancient corridors, and it creates kind of this parts of the buildings that are haves and have-nots. Here at South High, it would be like the first floor would look beautiful, and the second, third floor would feel like these islands that we didn't touch. What this allows us to do is to finish out a lot of those projects on the second and third floor and make the whole building feel as though it was taken care of as a result of this project. If you have questions specifically here about North High, I can call Ed up and answer any of them. Otherwise, that's kind of the big overarching look at what we're planning on doing.
I have, just, what's a lift station pump?
Lift station pump replacement is, it's a pump that pulls water out of which part of the building? It's the...
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So it's a very old piece that we had hoped to replace as part of our infrastructure as this plan, but it kept kicking it down the road.
In your house, it's your ejector pump in your basement,
Yeah.
taking care of your laundry.
Any others on there? You're going to notice over at North High, very similar set of projects. A lot of entrances, vestibules, hallways. It's those connector points between all of the new construction. So same story, different school. If you have questions on this, I can ask Janice to address them.
with both of them, it looked to me like there are some items that we have more exact numbers and others that appear to be more allowance sort of thing. Is that what
Yeah.
you're seeing?
Some we've already, because we've done the similar work before, it's priced out and we know exactly what the costs are. And there's a couple other areas that are square footage costs. That, assuming that we move forward past today and that I haven't heard any concerns from the board, then we'll actually get
So are
specific pricing.
those numbers such that we won't need more than this? There's a chance that dollars might
This
come
is
back?
the worst case scenario.
Okay,
number.
there's a good chance then that there could be some dollars left over from this that we
Yeah.
can still advance.
There's a whole nother list beyond this that Ed,
Yeah.
Janice, and Jim are working on that are, as more contingency is hopefully released, as allowances come back to us, as hopefully these projects come in under budget, that then we just keep working. It's very much like how we handle capital outlay, that we have this wish list and we get through as much of it as we can. That's the way it'll work forward with the contingency.
Now, there's still money left over for furnishing?
Yeah,
Whole other budget.
the
FF&E.
FF&E allowance, that's the furniture, fixtures, and equipment.
Oh, I see it.
You
I'm
can still
sorry.
see
Yeah.
sitting there, and that's where we sit right now after, I believe, purchasing everything for Phase B and C. So we still have like a contingency in that furniture budget, because we know that
Yeah.
once everything gets put into place and equipment shows up, that there's going to be things that we still wanted or missed that, you know, it's like when you move into a new house and you think you're fully furnished and then you realize, oh, wait, you know, that didn't quite work out as we expected, that there's still a budget there for that.
Could it be, maybe following up here a little bit on Terry's question, might it be that we look to move more contingency dollars into doing more with FF&E
Right.
going forward? We're trying to weigh that against these priorities, and that's a discussion we'll have further.
Yeah, the goal is to meet all the needs of the project by the end, so, you know, by August. So that's where it all kind of fits in. So it could be that as everything works out, that this comes back into the contingency. It could be that we realize that parts of the building, now that we moved in, need something very different. Plus, we're reallocating existing furniture to places, you know, once you get it there, maybe, right? So this
what I'm
could kind of
thinking.
flow both ways with
Yep.
the contingency.
Good. Because I was worried that we wouldn't have enough for some of the furniture.
No, actually, we came in, our bids for furniture came in really, really well for Phase C.
Now, do we have to order them like now
That's already,
so that they'll be ready
Yep.
for September?
yeah, that's one of the things we've been working on this year. So everything is queued up, ready to go for this summer.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
seems that getting furniture is a big deal as far as the timeline to get things in.
Yeah, we're projecting on time to have
Okay.
everything ready for when students return next year. You know, obviously, there'll be the finishing touches and punch list and, you know, the growing pains of moving into a space, but everything should be ready for occupancy and for our students to move into it to start the next school year.
Yeah, we've all heard about all the supply chain issues that have been going on, right? So this is really a testament to the fantastic planning that's been done all the way through, that has, you know, that we've been ahead of it, and you know, the issues haven't really affected us in terms of construction or in purchasing FF&E. So, I mean, well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We have a great team working on it.
Yep.
So, all right, so that's it for master facility plan. FOIA requests, we received those and have filled those, and those are all available and listed on our website. So that's it for superintendent reports.
Questions? Hearing none, we'll move to the consent agenda. Does anybody have anything they'd like to take out of the consent agenda?
No, but I did have a question on C of the consent agenda, and it's to Hank. So could you open up C on your computer, the personnel report?
I don't know if I can display it up here. but-
No, do you need to?
No,
It was just a question about, I was surprised at the discrepancy from one step to the next at the same level. And I guess
What do
I
you-
haven't looked at the contract, and is that typical throughout the contract, I guess?
It would depend on the step.
They're identical, except the only difference is 15 credit hours.
Yeah, there's a lane there that they
I was
can move
surprised
from.
at the increase between Masters 15 and Masters 30 at step one.
Yeah, I mean,
It's huge.
It's
I-
what's
I-
in what's in the bargain agreement with the DGA.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, yeah, I could send the board the link to that, and you can see how that salary schedule is.
Yeah.
But that's the bargain agreement that we.
Oh,
signed.
I know it is,
Yeah.
but I was just, I was looking at the numbers, and that was an apples to apples comparison. So these are straight off of the lane.
Yeah, this would be
Salary.
directly, this is directly from the bargain agreement, yeah.
Yeah. The Masters 15 to the Masters 30, step one, there's,
There's a large jump.
it's
Mhm.
really big,
Yeah,
like more than the cost of the classes would cost.
yeah, I mean, but that's what.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Okay.
bargain agreement with the DGA. That over the years, that's where that big jump happens in a teacher's contract.
Yeah. I guess,
Because that's typically when you earn the masters, is at the 30.
no, Master 60, is it?
Or, I mean, yeah,
Master 60.
right, you're halfway there to it, yeah.
So are we leaving that in the consent?
Yeah, did you want to?
No,
pull it out,
I
or you
just
had a
wanted,
question?
I wanted clarification.
Okay,
No, that's fine.
Because I was like shocked when I saw the numbers between the two. I was really,
Yeah,
I
that's,
couldn't believe that there was that much of a discrepancy
yeah, those
by
kinds of
only
things.
15 credit hours.
Yeah, those are kinds of things develop over time as you know, as agreements are bargained and structured and how those.
I would
things
assumed
work.
it would have been closer. I'm shocked at the increase.
Yep, that's just the structure of how the contract is written.
Okay.
All right, any other questions on consent?
I had a quick question about the IHSA.
Mm-hmm.
Does that normally come up annually? Okay, I couldn't remember.
Yeah, this is a yearly renewal. Comes up every year at this time.
Okay,
Well, either this month or May, at the
Okay.
end of the school year.
yep, okay.
did you have something to follow up, or that was it?
Just
Okay.
the timeline.
Anybody else? Anything else? Okay, hearing none, we need a motion for the Board of Education to approve the consent agenda, which includes A, waiving of first reading and approval of Board Policy 3.69, Assistant Controller. B, the IMRF resolution to allow benefit protection leave. C, personnel report, appointments certified, appointments classified, leave of absence classified, appointments exempt, appointment administration compensation. D, the personnel report, resignations certified, retirements classified, resignations classified. E, the financial pages. F, South High Title I school-wide waiver. G, the District Auditor Services. H, the Illinois High School Association IHSA membership. And I, the resolution of appointment to DuPage Area Occupational Educational System Board of Directors. Thank you again, Gina Zaccardi.
So moved.
Mike and Joanne.
Thank you. Mike Davenport,
Aye.
Joanna Vasquez Drexler,
Aye.
Sherelle Fuller,
Aye.
Dan Nicholas,
Aye.
Terry Pavasich,
Aye.
Rick Pavanato,
Aye.
and Nancy Kupka.
Aye, the consent motion, the consent agenda carries. We'll move on to the recommendations for action. First, we need a motion for the Board of Education to approve the one-year financial extension to the Support Staff Association Collective Bargaining Agreement that expires on June 30th, 2021.
Moved.
Second.
Mike and Joanna.
Mike and Joanna. Thank you. Mike Davenport,
Aye.
Joanna Vasquez Drexler,
Aye.
Sherelle Fuller,
Aye.
Dan Nicholas,
Aye.
Terry Pavasich,
Aye.
Rick Pavanato,
Aye.
and Nancy Kupka.
Aye, the motion carries. Next, we need a motion for the Board of Education to approve the draft board protocols as presented.
So moved.
Mike and Terry, I think this is jazz hands, or you're seconding?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
Mike and Terry.
Thank you very much. Mike Davenport,
Aye.
Terry Pavasich,
Aye.
Rick Pavanato,
Aye.
Joanna Vasquez Drexler,
Aye.
Sherelle Fuller,
Aye.
and Dan Nicholas,
Aye.
and Nancy Kupka.
Aye, motion carries. Next, we need a motion for the Board of Education to approve the updated summer school costs and tuition as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Mike Sherrill?
Thank you. Mike Davenport,
Aye.
Cheryl Fuller,
Aye.
Dan Nicholas,
Aye.
Terry Pavasich,
Aye.
Rick Pavanato,
Aye.
Joanna Vasquez Drexler,
Aye.
and Nancy Kupka.
Aye, the motion carries. Next, we need D, a motion for the Board of Education to approve the contract with High Res Productions, in the amount of $20,500, and that the administration be approved to sign and otherwise execute any related documents pertaining to this contract.
So moved.
Mike and Joanna?
Thank you. Mike Davenport,
Aye.
Joanna Vasquez Drexler,
Aye.
Cheryl Fuller,
Aye.
Dan Nicholas,
Aye.
Terry Pavasich,
Aye.
Rick Pavanato,
Aye.
and Nancy Kupka.
Aye, motion carries. Next, we need the motion for the Board of Education to approve the amendment to extension of pupil services agreement proposed by First Student, Inc. for the 2021-22 school year and authorize the administration to execute all necessary documents to continue this contract.
So moved.
Second.
Mike and Joanna?
Thank you. Mike Davenport,
Aye.
Joanna Vasquez Drexler,
Aye.
Cheryl Fuller,
Aye.
Dan Nicholas,
Aye.
Terry Pavasich,
Aye.
Rick Pavanato,
Aye.
and Nancy Kupka.
Aye, the motion carries. Next, we need a motion for the Board of Education to approve the amendment to special education student transportation services and transportation contract with Sunrise Southwest LLC for the 2021-22 school year and authorize the administration to execute all necessary documents to continue this contract.
So, a second.
Joanna?
Joanna won.
Joanna?
Joanna and Mike. Thank you. Joanna Vasquez Drexler,
Aye.
Mike Davenport,
Aye.
Cheryl Fuller,
Aye.
Dan Nicholas,
Aye.
Terry Pavasich,
Aye.
Rick Pavanato,
Aye.
and Nancy Kupka.
Aye, the motion carries. Next, we have a motion for the Board of Education to adopt the resolution entitled Resolution Authorizing the DuPage County Clerk to extend specific tax rates for tax year 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Joanna and Mike?
Thank you. Joanna Vasquez Drexler,
Aye.
Mike Davenport,
Aye.
Cheryl Fuller,
Aye.
Dan Nicholas,
Aye.
Terry Pavasich,
Aye.
Rick Pavanato,
Aye.
and Nancy Kupka.
Aye, and the motion carries. Next, we have a motion for the Board of Education to authorize continuation of the food service contract with Chartwells for the 2021-22 school year, and that the administration be authorized to sign the contract renewal agreement for food management services nonprofit food service program.
So moved. Second.
I think that was Sherrill
Sherrill and Joanna.
and Joanna.
Yeah.
Okay, Cheryl was first and Joanna was second?
Correct.
Thank you. Cheryl Fuller,
Aye.
Joanna Vasquez Drexler,
Aye.
Mike Davenport,
Aye.
Dan Nicholas,
Aye.
Terry Pavasich,
Aye.
Rick Pavanato,
Aye.
Nancy Kupka.
Aye, the motion carries. Next, we need a motion for the Board of Education to approve the resolution entitled Resolution Continuing Appointment of School Treasurer in order to continue the appointment of Mr. Eric Wagner, CPA, as District Treasurer for Community High School District 99 for the period of time beginning July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2024.
So moved.
Joanna?
Second.
Mike?
Thank you. Joanna Vasquez Drexler,
Aye.
Mike Davenport,
Aye.
Cheryl Fuller,
Aye.
Dan Nicholas,
Aye.
Terry Pavasich,
Aye.
Rick Pavanato,
Aye.
and Nancy Kupka.
Aye, the motion carries. Next, we need a motion for the Board of Education to accept the lowest responsible bid from Fred J. Miller Company in the amount of $104,193.85 to provide marching band uniforms for South High School, and to also authorize the administration to issue and/or sign any necessary documents to have Fred J. Miller Company produce the uniforms in accordance with the request for bids for band uniforms at South High School issued on March 24th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Mike and Sherrill?
Thank you. Mike Davenport,
Aye.
Cheryl Fuller,
Aye.
Dan Nicholas, Terry Pavasich,
Aye.
Rick Pavanato,
Aye.
Joanna Vasquez Drexler,
Aye.
and Nancy Kupka.
Aye, the motion carries. And finally, we need a motion for the Board of Education to approve a 2.8% increase on the base salary of the superintendent from $244,007 to $250,839 and a $10,000 403B contribution.
So moved.
Second.
Mike and Joanna.
Thank you. Mike Davenport,
Aye.
Joanna Vasquez Drexler,
Aye.
Cheryl Fuller,
Aye.
Dan Nicholas, Terry Pavasich,
Aye.
Rick Pavanato,
Aye.
and Nancy Kupka.
Aye, motion carries. Moving on to old business, second reading from the Policy Committee.
These committees were brought by the policy committee last month for first reading. We've received no questions, follow-up, or concerns over the last month. So they are recommended for approval this evening.
Do we have a motion to approve?
So move.
Joanna and Dan?
I'm sorry, Joanna and Dan?
Yeah,
Oh,
Yes.
thank you so
I
much.
think, was that you, Dan? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Joanna Vasquez Drexler.
Aye.
Dan Nicholas. Terry Pavasich.
Aye.
Rick Peminato.
Aye.
Mike Davenport.
Aye.
Sherelle Fuller.
Aye.
And Nancy Kupka.
Aye. The second reading is accepted. Next, we have a reception of visitors for public comment. This is the second reception of visitors, which is intended for audience members to address the board on any topic pertaining to Community High School District 99. Does anybody wish to address the board? Hearing none, do we have any online?
Oh, wait.
Oh, sorry. Comments are going to be limited to 3 minutes to provide all visitors an equal opportunity to address the board. Individuals needing more time should submit their thoughts in writing to the board secretary, Mrs. Nidek. Visitors addressing the board need to come to the microphone, and we need your full name. The proceedings are being tape recorded for the purpose of producing accurate meeting minutes, and they are being live streamed. I reserve the right to modify these protocols if circumstances warrant, and we thank you for your observation of these protocols.
Yes, thank you. My name is Laura Hoyce. I'm a parent of a junior here at Downers Grove North High School in District 99. And I am here with concern about the State Board of Education and then a committee in Springfield in February having passed culturally responsible teaching and leading standards. And the concerns relate to the fact that many of our students in District 99 are not performing at an acceptable level in the basics of education. You know, reading, writing, arithmetic is what we pay taxes for, our kids to learn the basics, our kids to be educated in the various topics that we would expect in primary school and secondary school, but this is different. These standards that are being imposed upon District 99 by the state, and I do understand that, encourage political activism and far-left ideology to be brought to the forefront in the classroom, and any licensed teacher is required to change their focus to behaviors, to color of skin, to race, to identity politics, critical race theory. You know, these are things that, as a parent, I don't believe they belong in school. I believe political activism is not part of the education that we, residents of District 99, moved here for. This is, we're paying for our kids to be educated in a fair and responsible way without regard to these issues that relate to politics. So I think it's a matter of concern. Starting now, I recognize that these implementation will not take place for a few years, but there are already guidelines in place along these lines. And for those of us that have children that we don't believe are engaging in any behaviors that are oppressive or so on, I'm interested in knowing, and I recognize this isn't an exchange of information, but I will be inquiring of each member of the board as to where you stand on this issue and what your position is and how you react to these state standards that may come to be in the next several years. I think it's bad for the school. I think it's bad for the parents. I think it's bad for the community. And I think it encourages families to look elsewhere for their kids' education. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to address the board? Anybody
We
online?
received 2 comments online. One thanks us for arranging for vaccinations for seniors at Fenton last week, and concerns about the 14-day quarantine period, which we talked about earlier this evening. And the other one is actually directed to student board member Sam Bowl, congratulating him on his journalism award, and then making some recommendations for the DGN newspaper for investigative journalist topics. A wide-ranging list of items here that will also be shared with the board and put in the board minutes. I'll share those with you and your counterpart, Mr. Alvarez, over at South High, and then your teams can determine how you'd like to handle that. And congratulations again, Sam. That's it for, oh, and in here is a concern that, that the newspaper, or that the administration not censor the student newspapers, which we make no practice of. So anyways, that was, those are all of the comments. Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
Rick, thank you for your question. So the personnel report, it looks like we have an error in there. So Kathleen Guzman, who's going to be hired as our librarian, the salary amount listed in the personnel report is correct, but it should be step 8. So it looks like it references step 1 on there.
You can see that I was
There's
shocked.
a bit, yeah. So I went back into the contract as you were asking,
Yeah.
and then I talked to Jeff, our HR director. It looks like
So I saw the typo
step
in
8.
step, they forgot the T, but then
Yeah.
the salary, I was like, I couldn't get there mentally.
Yeah. So that's step 8 instead of step 1.
Well, that makes a
That
big
explains
difference.
it then.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good catch.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, we pull it right off the contract, but
I was
we didn't label that
when
cell
I,
correctly.
when I saw the discrepancy for 15 credit hours, I couldn't get there mentally. That's why I had to ask.
Yeah, I just don't have it memorized off the top of my head. So thank you, Rob, for filling in the
Yeah,
blanks.
thanks.
All right, that's it for reception of visitors.
Okay, communications and announcements, the report on LEND. Anything, Dan?
There's a meeting on the 23rd, and right now the LEND survey went out to ask how satisfied we were with their services this year. I responded to that on behalf of the district, and there is a lot going on in Springfield, which I've shared both with the board and with our staff. So we keep a close eye on what's going on in Springfield.
Joanna, anything on SACID?
No report today.
No report today? 99 Education, Terry?
Yeah, you all got the memo that Maura Bates won an award with the, I didn't write down the initials.
INSPRA, yeah, the public relations organization in Illinois for schools.
Yes, her and a community member did an outstanding job in setting up a run-walk situation and raised almost $5,000 for.
It was a catchy name, too. What was it?
Corona?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a great event, and I think they're planning on doing it again. And the foundation is also going to be working with the incubator class to look for seed money for some of the kids to do projects and their entrepreneurship. And just FYI, Pizza Wars made $8,100. And that was strictly donations this year. And we also put the list of pizza vendors on our website, and I believe they're still there. So be sure and order a pizza from them now and again, because things still haven't gotten back to normal. So we want to make sure that those pizza vendors are still in town next year. And the date has been set for Pizza Wars next year, which will be March 4th of 2022. Hard to believe we're talking about March of next year, but put that on your calendar, and hopefully we'll be in the commons area of our buildings. So it'll be wonderful. Thank you.
Very cool. Mike, anything on Illinois Association of School Boards?
No report.
Okay. We have several upcoming meetings. May 3rd, we'll have our workshop meeting, and then we will, at 6:30, and then at 7 o'clock, we'll have the board reorganization workshop meeting. It is the last meeting for Dan and Rick. They've both decided not to run again, and we will be missing you. And the last meeting for Sam and Zoe. And we
No,
will,
Sam and Zoe go one more.
they go, oh,
Yeah.
the heck with you then. I'm not going to say goodbye. One more. But we'll be saying goodbye, and we'll be welcoming our 2 new board members, Jenny and Christopher. So that will be at 6:30 on the 3rd, and then followed by the reorganization at 7, and then we'll have our regular business meeting on May 17th. Anything else?
Hopefully graduation on the 21st, if weather
Yep.
permits.
Graduation's a coming.
Yeah, make sure that we have good weather on that day. So I've put in a request.
Thank
Okay,
you.
all right, good going.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Terry and Joanna, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Everyone's gonna keep up on you.